when you talk about this capitalism, that a lot of times people don't realize how effective it has been um, to distract us constantly with the differences amongst us as people of color in this country, that we don't realize that we're fighting for the scraps while they feast at the top. And we don't realize that, instead of people saying, this light-skinned person, or this Puerto Rican, or this woman, or this man is taking from the pot, and they have privilege because I saw this whole argument online the other day that Cassie, the singer, they were like, this is light-skinned privilege. She was taking opportunities that could have been there for dark-skinned people. And then I realized, and I'm like, there is a plethora of mediocrity and whiteness that gets to navigate exceptional spaces. And they have led us to believe that we have to fight for these 3 spots, when the reality of it is that we should be having just as many spots as everybody else. We don't have to compare ourselves to other marginalized people to justify why we deserve to be here. And I just think that it's the greatest mind screw of all time. So I wanted just to get your take on that, because we constantly have these conversations and fights, and they continue to keep their foot on our neck.
Well, look, not all skin folk are kinfolk. And what we mean with that is that identity is critically important to who I am and how I raised my daughter, and what I put out with my family, my comrades, and folks. But we also live in a very sophisticated white supremacist time right now. You don't need a white man or a white woman or a white non-binary person to be sexist, patriarchal, misogynistic, or white supremacist, right? President Barack Obama deported more Latino immigrants, migrants, than George Bush did. Condoleezza Rice was dropping bombs. That's the Secretary said. In fact, if we just look at today, we have a president and vice president that last night dropped bombs in Syria, right? So what that means is identity is important to me, but politics is just more important. So I'm not like just rolling with Boricuas because they're Boricuas if they want statehood. Like, I ain't even trying to talk to you, right? Like, I'm not rolling with Black or brown folks because of our identity around culture and ethnicity and race. I need to know what your politic is. And for me, it's so concrete right now because 3 hours from Albany, New York is Rochester, New York. And a lot of people just found out a couple of days ago that the cops that killed Daniel Perdue, are not going to be brought up on charges. And I got mad texts like, what are we going to do to take the Republicans out? I'm like, Rochester's run by all Black and Latino people. The mayor is Black. The police chief is Black. The human health services is Latina. The DA is Black. So all these Black, Latino folks, Black folks, they've been seeing the footage. It's like the Laquan McDonald case in Chicago. They hid it. And right now we're in this crazy time where we think people that look like us represent us. And we're seeing the alignment of white supremacy beginning to be like, oh, we don't even need to doing this as white people. We can find Black and brown people that will be oppressive in their public policy, their statements, and all of that. Now, on the identity tip, why I think it is important as well is because Donald Trump won on a white identity politic. He got 52% of white women to vote for him last time, and 56% of white women voted for him now. So I'm like, oh, wait, if I'm in a room with 4 white women, 2 of you voted for Trump. And it's not who people think in an identity of poor white is. It's not just poor white people. There are chancellors of universities, captains of industry, white people who talk a really good game, journalists and all that, but who voted for Trump. So I'm like, yo, we need to be very clear on what we're against, but we also need to be clear that none of this is reformable anymore. I don't only say defund the police, abolish the police. I look at the movement for Black Lives, who tells us who keeps us safe, we keep us safe. There's no reforming a better jail. Like, there's no reforming a better detention center. Immigrant women right now, not just Latina ones, but African immigrants, their uteruses are being taken out and they're being sterilized in these detention centers. And I'm like, yo, if people just think rolling with somebody that looks like you means you are represented, you better know somebody's politics. At the end of the day, you got to know what the politics are.
That's on, and that's on Mary Had a Little Lamb, as the children would say. It is. Someone said it's a nonstop traumatic nightmare. Go ahead. No, I want to hear from you. It's a collective trauma.
My daughter's 16, and just seeing from the day she was born in 2005 is when I began to really understand climate catastrophe. I traveled down to New Orleans to cover what happened after Hurricane Katrina. But just her whole lifetime, I'm like, I went through a lot of things as a child. I think we all did, especially if we grew up in the 70s and 80s, and especially in Latino communities, like, you don't talk about anything bad. Yep. Everybody's part of the family, even if Theo's doing something wrong. Nobody talked about drugs. It's just like, they're gone for a little. Where are they?
Yeah.
We grew up in a time where it's just like, you did not, our parents who came to this country, whether they migrated or immigrate, were like, this is better than everything else. So like, why are you complaining? Keep that in the family. I grew up at that time. I now am in a time, and I'm seeing that my daughter just can't walk down the street without making sure she knows how to record if something happens with the police. I never had to deal with that. I never had to. I don't remember any police in my community. I don't. In fact, I don't really remember seeing white people until my parents moved us to the suburbs. And even in that, it was very utopic. Like, the white people that I was around were like our people. Like, we were a small little town and everybody helped everybody. And, it's just like, you got to see this. You got to grow up knowing about state violence. Now it's being taped. Now we have to monitor. And I have to tell my daughter, like, you're not watching that. I'm not watching that. I can't keep watching Black people being assassinated in daylight. I can't. Even this scourge right now of violence against Asian Americans, I had to call like a couple of my people and be like, yo, I need to know, like, what is happening? And I look at my daughter and I go, damn, she can't just go out and skateboard. She has to be ready in case the police come or some law enforcement comes. She has to be ready to record. She has to deal with climate catastrophe and a global pandemic now. I'm just like, yo, the one thing as parents that me and my husband try to do, and that my sister and with my nieces and nephews, is tell them the information and prepare them, but also show them love and joy. And part of that love and joy for our family was traveling and going to Puerto Rico. And that has been gone for a year. So everyone in my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, I'm like, yo, I can't go and see somebody in Puerto Rico. I can't go to LA. How is my daughter feeling at 16, having all one day she's in school and the next year she's out? And our children are feeling this. And we have to be honest with them. And in that honesty, you can also prepare them. And because I didn't grow up in a movement household, I was very purposeful from the day my daughter was born, even her birth certificate, identifying her as a Black Puerto Rican. So she would have cultural and racial pride, but that she would also know that as bad as things are, there are moments where we can not just stay alive, but that we can thrive. And I think we all need to do that with all the children in our lives, no matter if we're their parents or not.
What's funny is because my birth certificate has nothing on the race. They just left it blank. They did. They left it blank. I was born in Boston, and
Well,
my
that's all you have to say.
yeah, my grandmother was like, "Mami, no, they didn't know what. No sabían, no sabían, no pusieron nada. Like they didn't put anything because they didn't want. They couldn't. They didn't want to call me black, but they didn't want to call me white either. So they
Yeah,
just
but also you were born in Boston, and let me tell
yeah.
you, if you want to see a special kind of racism, go and spend a couple days in Boston.
I know. They got me out of there.
I
didn't
like
grow up
put nothing you up out. Boston is real special with the white racists up there.
That's why we left. My grandmother, my grandmother is, God bless her soul, all the statute of limitations expired, so we can talk about her. But a teacher stabbed my uncle in the jaw with a pencil, and he was about 8 or 9 years old. And Puerto Ricans range in all colors. So my grandmother had the Rainbow Coalition in the children. She had
Right.
it's going to be all in this special, right? There was el jabao, the words we like to say to code our blackness, el moreno, el moye. But this was the darkest uncle and black. And if you didn't know he didn't talk to you, you didn't know he was Puerto Rican. Stabbed him my grandmother went to the school, tore her clothes off, and beat her because she was ferocious. And then they packed up in the middle of the night and moved to Miami. And so they can't come get her now. So I can tell her.
Don't cross a Latina mother. That's all.
Yeah, it was. She was like, ¿Qué? And she goes, "Mommy, I don't even know." She said, "I don't remember. All I know is when I came to, I had this white lady in my hands, and I knew I had to go because they were gonna kill me." She goes, "Esos blancos me iban a matar."
That's so funny that you say that, because I would say all mothers and daughters have a fraught relationship. And in my junior year of high school, I was kind of getting out of my rebellion phase and being like, 2 years, I'm out this house. Like, I'm going to college. My parents are supporting that. But I was in a history class. And as folks who know me, I love history, which is why I'm a historian. And the teacher was like, "You're never going to amount to anything if you keep, challenging me." And I don't know why I did this, but I got up and I threw like those old school desks that the chairs attached, like, and they took me into the room. They're like, "Yeah, your mom's about to pick you up. Like, you're lucky we're not expelling you. We're going to suspend you." And my mom came. My mom's always looking good. Everybody knew who my mom was. So she's mad short. She's like 5 feet, but she'll scare the shit out of anybody. Like my mom, I'm like, I'd rather talk to my dad sometimes than my mom about things, because my mom's like, "Yo, you full of shit. Just go do that or whatever."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh man, my mom's going to agree and I'm going to get suspended." We're having the meeting and my mom goes, "Did you tell my daughter she would never amount to anything?" And the teacher's like, no. The white woman. And my mom's like, "Did you tell my daughter that she would not make it in life?" She's like, "Yes, I could have said that." And my mom was like, looked at the principal, was like, "You're not suspending her. Don't ever talk to my daughter again," to the teacher. "Let her turn in her work and we can move beyond this." And that sticks with me at that time, because I'm like, moms came in on. So I'm like, what did you say? So it's these moments that make you who you are, right?
Yeah.
It's these moments where I began to see my mom more and more as like, she's also a human outside of being my mom. And when I went to college, and now I'll ask her just questions like, what did you want to do something else? And this is what you were tracked to do as a woman. What were your dreams? I want to know what my abuela and both my abuelas and my abuelos, what were their dreams outside of making a better world? Did they have things that they want to do that they never could do? And I come from a strong stock of dope Puerto Rican like women. My mom has 15 brothers and sisters, except for one. They're still all alive. But it's my titis who were like the lawyers, the teachers. It's like they're the ones right now taking care of the brothers, right? Taking care of the family. So I come from a strong stock of women. And even with all that, I've had a lot of issues as a woman dealing with patriarchy and misogyny and kind of just always wanting to please people. Like I'm about to be 50 and I just decided last year, I'm like, I could say no. Well, my friends be like, we've been telling you to do that for 20 years. Like, stop. You don't need to do this. You don't need to be liked by everybody. It's like, it's something that's ingrained in us as women, especially women of color, like what you said at the beginning. Don't be too loud. Don't have too many opinions. Accept the bullshit. Also, part of the politic is also when I was in, coming up as an organizer, it was about saving Black and brown men, but it was never about us as women. And I look at times where I was patriarchal. I look at those moments where I was like, why weren't there any other women around but me? That's not normal. But that takes a lot of introspection and, you grow with age and you hope you're better. I hope I'm better.
I think you are. You are a treasure to us.